Howdy guys, Rex here. We're talking about the Combat Command Fire course coming up rapidly at Hawks Double Mountain Ranch in Rotan, Texas. We had a few different questions on some equipment and some pre-study materials. We're sending out a second letter. You guys will have to forgive me. Some of the letters are jamming up in our email system. We have too many email contacts, and so that's something we've been working on with some folks to make sure we can get our letters to go out more reliably. Apparently when you have too many email contacts, it jams them up. So we will get that out to you here today, individually to this particular class. For those guys coming to Combat Command Fire class, you're going to want to hook up with Mr. Joe Nixon at HDMR at the ranch there. He's going to get you all fixed up with accommodations, real good, classy accommodations. He'll take care of all the food and meals and stuff like that. No need to worry about that once you get to the ranch. A couple pieces of key equipment that you will find pretty darn helpful for the course will be your communications gear. That's going to be something you're going to need. This is a field training exercise, and so having your communications gear is going to be like essential to take this class. You don't need anything fancy. We're going to be using FRS radios. So if you go down to like Wally World or a sporting goods store, get yourself a Midland radio, any kind of FRS consumer brand radio should work fine. Basically, should be not, you don't need to spend a lot of money. In all reality, a lot of the ones that give you the longer distance are actually the same exact radio. They just measure those things differently a lot of times. So if you get just whatever's cheap, you know, this should not cost you over $50 to get a set of FRS radios. We'll need that for the field training exercise so we can practice our communication and work on things like that. Another thing you're going to obviously need besides your rifle kit and all your other field gear, your ammunition and such, is going to be a canteen. It's going to be West Texas. West Texas has been known to be a little bit warm, and you will be in the field, and so you will want to make sure you're plenty hydrated. And we will send out reminders on the radio to make sure everyone's staying hydrated, everyone's feeling okay. All right, it's going to be a lot of fun, guys. We're going to have a blast with this deal. We look forward to playing these war games with you guys. It's going to be a good time. There's a few different videos you guys can study ahead of time, and we're just a week and a half out or something like that. So this will be good if you want it to be fresh on your mind. There's a video on the 101 series that's talking about ranging enemy fire using the crack thump method. That is something that I think will be highly advantageous for you. There's going to be a couple different sets of guys. Some guys are going to be sneaking in, and the other guys are going to be looking for them. And it's good to know and have a basic idea of how the method works. So if you watch the Sniper 101 series video on the crack thump method for ranging enemy fire, that should be helpful. Also, how to use your mil dots for ranging might be very helpful as well. If you're ever taking on a sophisticated opponent, they will have equipment to be able to detect lasers pointed at them, and they will know how to find where you are in that situation. So using mil dots is not obsolete. It's something that is a good skill to have. Another video you guys can study is the shooter spotter team dynamics video. That's going to be important as well for a lot of different field applications. Some of these deals we might have you doing solo, some of them you might be operating with the team, and so that's going to be very important as well. Also, the sniper team communication and jargon video will be helpful just to understanding a bird's eye view on how jargon and different things should be communicated in general, and how that works, and kind of letting you know that there's not a specific exact way of doing it. There's a certain skeleton format that should be used, but the jargon will vary a little bit. So that video will be very helpful. Also, the video on selecting an FFP, a final firing position, is going to be very, very helpful for you as well. That one is very important for this class. If you pick something conspicuous, it's not going to be very helpful to your success. And then also, the last but not least, is the thinking strategically, part 101, the very last in this series. That video is probably the most important one we've ever produced, and particularly when you're taking this kind of a course, I think it's very important for you to be very well familiar with the topic material in the thinking strategically video on the 101 series, so do watch that as well. For those of you that still want to jump in on the course, there are a couple spots available. It's getting, we don't want to overbook it with too many guys, although it would be extra radical and extra fun that way. But there are a few slots available. The only prerequisites needed for this course are some kind of prior Rex defense training. If you have a seminar, that's adequate. If you have a 0 to deadly, that's adequate. Although this is a higher tier course, it's not really contingent on your long-range precision marksmanship. This is a field training exercise talking about the field craft. But don't be too stressed out if you don't have your top-notch precision shooting equipment yet. Just bring whatever rifle you do have, your ammunition. The equipment list will be on the course description at rexdefense.com. We have a very detailed course description there, and if you scroll down, you will see the equipment list. Don't let that intimidate you. That's just suggestions for what guys will be using in the field typically. The main thing is you're going to need your rifle, your field kit, whatever you're going to use for concealment, you know, camouflage, stuff like that. And then obviously your canteen and your communications equipment like we said before. So do check that out, and we look forward to seeing you guys there. Just wanted to get this quick deal out, but we'll see you guys down there, and we look forward to hanging out again. Okay, so to be 100% frank with exactly where we're coming from here, I believe that a lot of our first responders, law enforcement personnel, and even a lot of our military and our foreign services overseas are pretty ill-equipped to properly handle this threat when it arises. You can look at case studies of what's happened domestically here, where they've had to combat this particular threat, or what's happened elsewhere. It's a tough thing to tackle unless you've really had a lot of experience doing it. And unfortunately, that experience is incredibly dangerous when you examine the nature of this threat and exactly how it's employed against good guys. And so what we're trying to do is provide that atmosphere of safety where people can toy with this. It's like the lion will bring a half-wounded animal to the cub to kind of be able to understand how to effectively employ combat in a safe environment, right? And that's kind of what we're doing here in some respect. Really, those people who are hunters, and I'm not really trying to draw a parallel here directly between hunting and combat. As conventionally employed, combat is really not hunting. However, as employed by this specific skill set, the guys that do what we're talking about in this class, it is hunting. And they're in such command of the situation to where it's very, very difficult to address that threat when it arises, or to even try to prevent it. And I think that turning people loose in the field to exercise some of the field craft in a training exercise environment where everyone loves you and where you're friends and we're trying to help you out, in a controlled environment where you can learn the dynamics of how humans hunt. Doing that in a safe environment, I think, is going to be incredibly valuable for first responders and police, but also military and foreign service personnel and good citizens, good law-abiding people who want to understand how this threat has been applied in history and in practice just naturally. And so this is going to be a class that's taken advantage of various different environments in the field where folks are going to have a chance in different settings, different vegetation, different topography on how to address these situations, how these guys operate, how to find them and prevent them from doing what they're trying to do. Likewise, if effectively employed by our guys, this is an incredibly efficient way to absolutely dominate your area. And so that's something that we'd like to communicate in this course. Yeah, so the reason we didn't call it something like just like a sniper course or something like that is that's not really specifically what we're getting at. There's a lot of different ways that that particular job has been employed. If you read case studies in history, or if you talk to a bunch of different guys, it's constantly evolving. But if you look at how it's been most effectively employed, and you look at the case studies that we're going to examine in the course and discuss at length and even practice in the field, if employed effectively, you truly command the situation. So if you just look at the three words, Combat Command Fire, right? Combat is simply a fight between two or more armed forces or opponents, right? In which the good guys are going to employ combat to take action to reduce or destroy or prevent something undesirable, right? Where bad guys are going to employ that same exact skill set to take action to reduce, destroy, or prevent something that is desirable, or extinguish something that is beautiful, like the lives of our guys, right? And to command a combat situation, what we're talking about is being in unquestionable, undisputed command of a situation, whatever that situation is. To be in a position of absolute dominance and strength over something, to subjugate it, right? To require authoritatively and demand an outcome at your leisure, and to dominate by reason of location, whether it be like an overlook location or a superior skill set, to have or exercise the authority or control over that, and truly be the master of that situation. And the way we effectively accomplish the command over a combat situation using this skill set is through the application of effective rifle fire. Particularly the shooting of projectiles from weapons. In our case, we're specifically referring to the precision rifle fire being applied for maximum dynamic effect on an enemy force in your area of projected dominance. So consider just one round. Right here we have a .308 caliber. This is a 175 grain Match King, right? This one round can outweigh the suppressive fire effects and the dynamic psychological battlefield effects that hundreds of thousands of rounds can make. And that's if it's employed effectively, understanding how to best utilize that one round. People totally underestimate the value of one round. And we're not just talking about kill rate efficiency. A lot of people quote the statistics, and I mean, for every 350,000 rounds expended in a combat zone, you only produce one kill on a bad guy, right? Whereas if you compare that to the numbers where guys are actually aiming, it's like 1.5 rounds per enemy kill, right? That's not even what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the full dynamic, psychological, and suppressive effects you can have on an enemy unit with one guy utilizing the skill set effectively. And that's something we want to communicate to our guys as well. Make sure that not only first responders and police understand how to mitigate this threat effectively, as to not be completely rendered inoperable for quite a length of time until they can figure out how to button down the situation. The nature of this threat is so slippery and hard to pin down that it requires extra practice. And for our guys to be able to effectively mitigate this threat, they really have to play with it quite a while, and giving them the opportunity to see how this all works out in real life, and giving our guys the opportunity to really explore all the different possibilities and outcomes of different tactics or different methods for mitigating this threat, I think is going to be very valuable. So this is a field training exercise. This is not a high round count class. If you guys want to get more practice actually shooting the rifles, learning the skill set of precision rifle shooting, that's what the RX class is for. That gives you, that helps you master 100 to 1,000 yards. If you want to shoot farther than that, that's why we have the ELR course, extreme long range. From 1,000 to 2,500 becomes pretty doable, and even beyond that. This particular course is a field training exercise. It's showing you how to employ whatever rifle you have, whether that be an M91 with open sights, which has, by the way, been very effective in history. It's even had huge outcomes on some major conflicts, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter the equipment as much as it does the skill set. We're teaching guys how to use a rifle most effectively to have maximum effect, whatever they're using. Now, of course, having good equipment and a rifle configured for this particular application is going to be highly advantageous. I think that there is a dramatic increase in the potential effect that you have in the field if you are able to shoot with precision out to those longer distances, which is what we show people how to do. But all that being said, you're going to see how in the planning phases of operations and how in when you consider all the different dynamics of being sneaky, escape and evasion, and everything else involved, being undetected, and but also guaranteeing that you take advantage of the full dynamic power of what's at your disposal psychologically through the use of that one round effectively, that you will put a lot more of the weight on and responsibility of this particular skill set on the field craft, and not so much even on the rifle equipment or anything like that. As long as you have a rifle that's sound and you know where it hits out to a certain distance, you're going to completely command the environment out to that distance, okay? And that's basically what we're trying to show. It's not an equipment-based class, but rather a fieldcraft-based class, right? And so folks are looking to study up for what they need to do in this particular course. Read up on camouflage, read case studies, see how this art, this martial art, has been employed effectively before. We all hear stories about how it's employed not effectively, right? But what you're looking, you want to find the guys who have done it well and see what their tactics were and study that. And this particular course is going to be an outdoors, a rural course, right? So this is going to show you how to take advantage of different terrain features. We got a diversity of terrain features we're going to be operating in with these guys, and let them have a chance at a few different scenarios. Yeah, so this course is not for muffins. If you don't want to get dirty, you don't want to swim in a river, you cannot deal with creepy crawlies, things like that, getting poked by a bush, this is probably not a course you're going to want to attend. Now, we'll accommodate folks who want to participate on the other end of the course and who want to participate in the observational portion of the class, scanning and detecting the threat, stuff like that's going to be still highly useful to see how it's done. Or folks who just want to learn from observing the exercise as well. So we're not going to count you out. But for guys who are going to want to participate in all the different aspects of this course, it's a field course. So just keep that in mind when you're signing up for it. I do plan on doing a lot of crawling around and laying out there for a while and being in relatively good shape. Much better shape than I'm in lately. So folks are looking to get kind of prepped for this class. I think that the field manuals are actually really helpful. The FM 23-10 has a lot about the field craft. A lot of that stuff is going to be what we're letting people practice. We're going to take it a bit beyond that. There's a lot of stuff when you talk about fieldcraft in those things that I'm not going to ever put online. It's just not something you put online. So we'll do this where we can vet the people coming in the class. There are prerequisites required, which means that we had to have met you before. I have to know you at least a little bit by having come to a prior class. We do screen folks for that. You have to be an American citizen for this particular class. And we like to be able to ensure that you're going to have the best success. So if you have a little bit of prior experience with the rifle, That's going to be very, very helpful. That being said, I think that it will be helpful to have read some of our suggested materials, like the FM 23-10, the U.S. Marine Corps equivalent is going to be very helpful in just understanding kind of what's going on in terms of communications, spot reports, situation reports, the field craft, hasty positions, the basics of camouflage. Some of those things you can get a head start on by reading about them. Some of the stuff we're going to teach you is not in those manuals, and it's not something we're going to put online. We're not going to talk about certain things online. So if you're a first responder, law enforcement officer, soldier, in a foreign service, or a good law-abiding citizen who wants to understand how this has classically been applied and understand all the different dynamics of how it's evolving today, I think that this will be a fun course. The accommodations are incredible. You guys are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of campfire discussions too. As we all sit around, we're all going to be hanging out together. There's going to be homework every night. There's going to be stuff you guys are going to refine with your kit, your equipment. There's going to be lots of questions, I'm sure, lots of discussions and debriefing on what happened in each little exercise. And so do plan to stay there for a while and hang out with everybody and make arrangements with Lodge so that you can be there every night when we're having we're breaking bread and discussing how things went. And I look forward to being able to help you guys out and giving you the opportunity in a controlled environment to be able to employ some of these things that we've thought about but maybe have never got the chance to do in real life, at least in a friendly environment.